and welcome to the Pros 2024 St. Patrick's Day Special. I hope you're all excited for this holiday. My family is pretty Irish, so it was a big deal to me growing up. Today what I have for you is one poem, one prayer, and one fun folktale/fairy tale. Hopefully all of this will help you celebrate your big St. Patrick's Day and enjoy all that green you're no doubtedly wearing. So, this week, we have a fun little poem called St. Patrick Was a Gentleman. We have St. Patrick's Breastplate, a popular prayer attributed to the patron saint of the nation, and an old Celtic fairy tale called Cogna and the Fairy Maiden. Enjoy. St. Patrick Was a Gentleman by Henry Bennett. St. Patrick was a gentleman, and he came from decent people. In Dublin town he built a church, and on it put a steeple. His father was a Gallagher, his mother was a Brady. His aunt was an O'Shaughnessy, and his uncle was a Grady. Then success too bold, St. Patrick's fist. He was a saint so clever. He gave the snakes and toads a twist, and banished them forever. Next up, here's a fun little fairy tale called Connla and the Fairy Maiden. Connla of the fiery hair was son of Conn of the 100 Fights. One day, as he stood by the side of his father on the height of Usna, he saw a maiden clad in strange attire coming towards him. "Whence comest thou, maiden?" said Connla. "I come from the plains of the ever-living," she said. "There, where there is neither death nor sin, there we keep holiday alway, nor need we help from any in our joy, and in all our pleasure we have no strife. And because we have our homes in the round green hills, men call us the hill folk." The king and all with him wondered much to hear a voice when they saw no one. For save Connla alone, none saw the fairy maiden. "To whom art thou talking, my son?" said Conn, the king. Then the maiden answered, "Connla speaks to a young fair maid, whom neither death nor old age awaits. I love Connla, and now I call him away to the plain of pleasure, Moymel, where Boadag is king for aye. Nor has there been complaint or sorrow in the land since he has held the kingship. Oh, come with me, Connla, of the fiery hair, ruddy as the dawn with thy tawny skin. A fairy crown awaits thee to grace thy comely face and royal form. Come, and never shall thy comeliness fade, nor thy youth to the last awful day of judgment." The king, in fear at what the maiden said, which he heard though he could not see her, called aloud to his druid Corin by name. "O Corin of the many spells," he said, "and of the cunning magic, I call upon thy aid. A task is upon me too great for all my skill and wit, greater than any laid upon me since I seized the kingship. A maiden unseen has met us, and by her power would take from me my dear, my comely son. If thou help not, he will be taken from thy king by woman's wiles and witchery." Then Corin the druid stood forth and chanted his spells towards the spot where the maiden's voice had been heard. And none heard her voice again, nor could Connla see her longer. Only as she vanished before the druid's mighty spell, she threw an apple at Connla. For a whole month from that day, Connla would take nothing, either to eat or drink, save only from that apple. But as he ate, it grew again and always kept whole. And all the while there grew within him a mighty yearning and longing after the maiden had been seen. He wanted to be with her again. But when the last day of the month of waiting came, Connla stood by the side of the king, his father, on the plain of Arcomin, and again he saw the maiden come towards him, and again she spoke to him. "'Tis a glorious place, forsooth, that Connla holds among short-lived mortals, awaiting the day of death, but now the folk of life, the ever-living ones, beg and bid thee come to Moymel, the plain of pleasure, for they have learnt to know thee, seeing thee in thy home among thy dear ones. When Conn the king heard the maiden's voice, he called to his men aloud and said, "Summon swift my druid Corin, for I see she has again this day the power of speech." Then the maiden said, "O mighty Conn, fighter of 100 fights, the druid's power is little loved. It has little honor in the mighty land, peopled with so many of the upright. When the law will come, it will do away with the druid's magic spells that come from the lips of the false black demon." Then Conn the king observed that, since the maiden came, Connla his son spoke to no one, but spake to him. So Conn of the 100 Fights said to him, "Is it to thy mind what the woman says, my son?" "'Tis hard upon me," then said Connla. "I love my own folk above all things, but yet a longing seizes me for the maiden." When the maiden heard this, she answered and said, "The ocean is not so strong as the waves of thy longing. Come with me, my Cora, the gleaming, straight, gliding crystal canoe. Soon we can reach Bordag's realm. I see the bright sun sink, yet far as it is, we can reach it before dark. There is too another land worthy of thy journey, a land joyous to all that seek it. Only wives and maidens dwell there. If thou wilt, we can seek it and live there alone together in joy." When the maiden ceased to speak, Connla of the fiery hair rushed away from them and sprang into the car, the gleaming, straight-gliding crystal canoe. And then they all, king and court, saw it glide away over the bright sea towards the setting sun. Away and away, till I could see it no longer, and Connla and the fiery fairy maiden went their way on the sea, and were seen no more, nor did any know where they came. We'll end this special day with a Catholic prayer, St. Patrick's breastplate. St. Patrick's breastplate is a popular prayer that is attributed to St. Patrick, who wrote it supposedly in 433 AD. He is quite famous, of course, for converting the king of Éirinn and his subjects from paganism to Christianity. And the breastplate part of it actually is talking about one's armor that one puts on before a battle, for those unfamiliar. This is quite common in Christianity as they talk about various presents and weapons and armors that prayer provides. Without further ado, to end today, here is St. Patrick's breastplate. I arise today through a mighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through all belief in the threeness, through confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation. I arise today through the strength of Christ's birth and his baptism, through the strength of his crucifixion and his burial, through the strength of his resurrection and his ascension, through the strength of his descent for the judgment of doom. I arise today through the strength of the love of cherubim, in the obedience of angels, in the service of archangels, in the hope of resurrection to meet with reward, in the prayers of patriarchs, in the predictions of prophets, in the preaching of apostles, in the faith of confessors, in the innocence of holy virgins, in the deeds of righteous men. I arise today through the strength of heaven, the light of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the splendor of fire, the speed of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of sea, the stability of the earth, the firmness of rock. I arise today through God's strength to pilot me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to guide me, God's eye to look before me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to speak for me, God's hand to guard me, God's shield to protect me, God's host to save me from snares of devils, from temptation of vices, from everyone who shall wish me ill, afar and near. I summon today all these powers between me and those evils, against every cruel and merciless power that may oppose my body and soul, against incantations of false prophets, against black laws of pagandom, against false laws of heretics, against craft of idolatry, against spells of witches and smiths and wizards, against every knowledge that corrupts man's body and soul. Christ to shield me today against poison, against burning, against drowning, against wounding, so that there may come to me an abundance of reward. Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit down, Christ when I arise, Christ in the heart of every man who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in every ear that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. Again, this is really working on what St. Paul called the armor of God. That was made quite famous in his letter to the Ephesians, roughly chapter 6, I believe, verse 11. So, I hope you enjoy this wonderful breastplate, this prayer to help give you divine armor against all things that come against you, particularly spiritual adversity. That actually does it for our St. Patrick's Day special here at Prose. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. All sounds you hear come from freesound.org and freemusicarchive.org and are being used under CC 0 1.0 Universal Public Domain Dedication Licenses. I hope that you'll remember to love those around you. Tell them that you do and embrace this life as it is, always stranger than fiction. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and we'll see you next time.